Imagine standing in front of a mirror, not just any mirror, but the one that reflects everything you've been told about yourself, the one that holds every judgment, every expectation, every silent rule you've followed. Now, imagine that woman staring back at you, the one who no longer seeks approval, the one who no longer explains herself, the one who doesn't chase anyone, doesn't bend to the weight of others' demands, and doesn't apologize for existing. She isn't loud. She doesn't need to be. Yet there is power radiating from her. And the question that changes everything is this: what would it take for you to become that woman? Think about it. Not the surface level. Not the fleeting I look good today moment. I mean the transformation that seeps into every corner of your life, that shifts the way you exist, the way you make decisions, the way the world responds to you. What if I told you this all starts with something you already have? Something so simple and yet so radical. The image you choose to show the world. And I know what you're thinking. It's just looks. Superficial. Frivolous. But that belief, that tiny voice telling you it doesn't matter, might just be the invisible cage keeping you from becoming who you were meant to be. Every time you ignore your appearance, every time you brush off caring for yourself, you send a message to your subconscious. A message that says, I don't deserve attention. I don't deserve presence. I don't deserve to exist fully. And Carl Jung, one of the fathers of modern psychology, gave us a warning. He said, what you reject in yourself becomes shadow. The parts of you that you ignore, that you belittle, that you hide, those don't disappear. They don't vanish. They sink into the unconscious, waiting, influencing, shaping your life in ways you cannot see. And one of the most common shadows for a woman, repressed femininity. The very aspects of yourself you've been told are trivial, weak, or unnecessary. The elegance, the sensuality, the attention to your presence, these are not indulgences. They are resources. Society has taught you that caring about your appearance is frivolous, that vanity is weakness, that strength means enduring, sacrificing, holding back, fading into the background so others can shine. They told you that being well-groomed, intentional, and radiant was selfish. But what if the exact opposite were true? What if true power, real psychological strength, was choosing every single day to care for yourself, not for others, not for validation, but for you, not as an act of vanity, but as an act of rebellion, a rebellion against everything that tried to make you small, invisible, and unheard. Brushing your hair, choosing your outfit with intention, looking at yourself in the mirror with respect. These are not superficial acts. They are rituals, psychological anchors that tell your mind, I am here, I am complete, I matter. They are messages you send to yourself before you even face the world. A daily practice that integrates the inner and outer. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Beauty is not just appearance. It's energy made visible. It's internal order projected outward. It's a way of speaking before you even open your mouth. And when you embrace that, something remarkable happens. You stop apologizing for existing. You stop seeking approval. You stop giving away your power unconsciously. The people who once tried to shape you, mold you, or dim your light, they start to notice. This is why daily rituals matter, not because the world notices, not because your clothes are Instagram-worthy, but because your mind and spirit recognize the message you send. I matter, I choose, I exist. Washing your face, adjusting your posture, selecting an outfit with intention, they are acts of psychological organization. Each detail you choose is a declaration. I am present, I am coherent, I am aligned. And the psyche responds. It remembers, it realigns. It begins to believe in you in ways mere words cannot command. And here's where the shift becomes dangerous, not in a threatening way, but in a deeply transformative way. The woman who invests in herself through presence and image becomes impossible to manipulate. She no longer reacts from chaos. She responds from center. She has built an anchor within herself, a silent, unshakable foundation. And in that foundation lies true autonomy. Others may try to test you, push you, provoke you, but the old tactics no longer work. You have leveled up. You've returned to yourself. And in that return, the world must adapt to your presence. Every gesture, every choice, every act of self-care is a declaration of autonomy. The way you hold yourself, the way you choose your appearance, The way you interact with others without bending, they all communicate one thing: I am my own priority. And that energy is more powerful than any argument, any explanation, any plea for validation. It is silent, invisible, yet profoundly felt. It is the kind of presence that shifts rooms, changes relationships, and unsettles those who once held control. Because here's the secret: the most dangerous transformation is silent. It doesn't scream. It doesn't demand recognition. It simply exists. And existence, when rooted in integrity, presence, and coherence, is the most disruptive force in any system built on control. The woman who has reclaimed herself through her image and rituals becomes a new kind of power. She doesn't compete. She doesn't explain. She doesn't apologize. She exists fully, and that existence is impossible to ignore. And it all begins with a simple, radical question: who am I if I stop asking for permission? Who am I if I choose myself every single day? What would happen if the mirror stopped being a judge and became an ally? This is the psychological shift that Jung hinted at. This is the shadow work that transforms weakness into presence, neglect into intention, invisibility into unshakable power. Every glance, every brush of hair, every choice you make with deliberate care is a brick in the foundation of your new self that the world may not recognize at first, but will be forced to respect. Picture pushing that change to the next level. You've begun to claim yourself. You've stopped apologizing for taking space. You've stopped waiting for recognition. You've stopped shrinking to make others comfortable. But the true evolution comes when this presence, this deliberate self-investment, begins to ripple outward, affecting everything around you. The way people speak to you changes. The way they treat you shifts. The opportunities you attract become aligned with your value. And it all starts with a small, almost imperceptible act: intentional self-care. Consider for a moment how often you've waited for the right feeling before acting, waiting until you feel worthy, confident, or seen. But psychology shows us something remarkable. Action precedes emotion. Feeling worthy doesn't appear first. It is built through repeated practice, through ritual, through intentional alignment between the inner self and the outer expression. Brushing your hair, dressing with purpose, looking in the mirror, and acknowledging your own presence. These acts trigger a response in the mind. The mind sees coherence, sees alignment, and begins to reinforce the belief: I am worthy, I am intentional, I am present. And that belief reshapes your choices, your behavior, and ultimately, your life. This is why the reflection in the mirror matters. It is not a superficial image. It is a daily barometer of your internal state. When you neglect yourself externally, something inside feels chaotic. Your energy feels scattered, disconnected, unanchored. But when you rebuild yourself on the outside, your inner state responds. Alignment emerges. Presence solidifies. Your mind begins to trust you, because you are demonstrating that you prioritize yourself, that you value yourself, and that you are capable of generating your own power. And the beauty of this transformation is that it is quiet but disruptive. A woman who no longer reacts to every slight, who no longer chases validation, who chooses her own center over the chaos around her. This woman unsettles the world, not because she seeks to unsettle, but because her presence cannot be controlled. People who once held influence over her through manipulation, guilt, or expectation suddenly find their usual tactics powerless. The woman who has aligned her inner and outer self moves with a calm, deliberate strength that others cannot predict or provoke. Her silence becomes louder than arguments. Her composure becomes more persuasive than pleas. Her presence becomes a force of nature. This is why daily rituals matter, not as performances, not as vanity, but as psychological infrastructure. Every time you care for your appearance with intention, you are reasserting control over your life, over your energy, over your narrative. The hairstyle, the outfit, the posture, the mirror acknowledgement, they are small acts with massive implications. They remind your psyche: I exist, I choose, I am coherent. And coherence is magnetic. Coherence is undeniable. Coherence shifts dynamics in relationships, in workplaces, in every interaction. And let's not overlook the shadow. Jung's concept of the shadow is central here. Every part of you that was told to hide, to confident, to radiant, to feminine, to present doesn't disappear when you suppress it. It lurks, undermining you silently. Insecurity, anxiety, self-doubt, comparison all arise from this repressed shadow. But when you begin to integrate these aspects through rituals and presence, the shadow transforms into power. That part of yourself that once made you feel fragile now becomes your anchor, your energy, your silent influence over the world. And here's what's fascinating. The world responds. People notice, even unconsciously. They sense the shift in your energy, the shift in your presence. But because this transformation is silent, it disrupts expectations. No one can pin you down. No one can manipulate your reactions. No one can predict your next move. Because your power isn't reactive, it is deliberate, anchored, and internal. You no longer move in chaos. You move with direction. You no longer respond with desperation. You respond with sovereignty. This is the ultimate psychological shift. Not loud, not aggressive, not competitive. Silent, intentional, undeniable. and it is rooted in daily, conscious choices. It is in the way you treat yourself, the way you honor your reflection, the way you communicate to yourself that you matter, that you choose, that you exist fully. Every small act compounds. Every morning you face the mirror with presence. You strengthen your internal coherence. You reinforce your autonomy. You reclaim the parts of yourself that were silenced. And make no mistake, this is not just about appearance. When you stop apologizing for existing, when you stop shrinking, when you stop chasing validation, you step into your power. You become a woman who cannot be ignored, not because of aggression, but because of presence, not because of argument, but because of alignment, not because of competition, but because of internal coherence projected outward. And here is the final truth. The woman who has rebuilt herself in silence doesn't just survive. She thrives. She shifts the energy of every room she enters. She recalibrates relationships without saying a word. She establishes boundaries without confrontation. She asserts her autonomy without explanation. She becomes a force the world must reckon with, a presence that commands respect without demanding it, a light that cannot be dimmed, a power that doesn't need validation. This transformation begins, and often ends, with a mirror. But it doesn't stop there. It is a daily practice, a ritual, a declaration of sovereignty. Every glance, every adjustment, every act of care, these are the building blocks of your rebirth. And when you commit to this, when you choose yourself first, every day, your life transforms quietly, profoundly, irreversibly. You stop asking for permission. You stop waiting for recognition. You stop accepting crumbs. You begin to move through the world with intention. You rebuild yourself externally, and your internal world follows. You reclaim what was yours all along. Presence, energy, light, autonomy, power. And that is the most dangerous psychological shift you will ever make. Silent, invisible, unstoppable. Because once you stop asking for permission to exist, the world can no longer ignore you.